The Beetle's got his eyes on the skies. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys' Blue Beetle movie, Blue Beetle Battle Mode. The first in his family to graduate college, Jamie Reyes harbors dreams of law school, but instead is conflicted in the face of threats to his home and misfortunes befalling his family. When he becomes symbiotically connected to an ancient alien biotechnology, Jamie is bestowed with almighty but unpredictable powers, leading him to fulfill his destiny and become the new generation of superhero, Blue Beetle. First, before we begin, I'd like to once again thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the new DC Multiverse Blue Beetle movie, Battle Mode Blue Beetle, that we could have the chance to have a look at in this review. Grabbing, of course, as we always do, the tape measure to see how tall the figure stands. He will be, of course, the same figure as before, if you didn't already know that, and because of that, of course, he's going to stand the same. This figure is about 6 3/4 inches in height, or he's about 17 centimeters tall. Short of just a bit of retooling they did on the back of his body, it seems to be, though, the same figure as the other Blue Beetle that we've already had a look at. I have already taken the luxury of adding the blaster on the end of his forearm, but that's also something that is on this figure as well. Other than, again, like the changing of the backpacks, which I'll show, of course, in a second, it looks to be the exact same figure from one to the other. Granted, the Battle Mode version of Blue Beetle does get gifted a few extra things that weren't packaged with the original Blue Beetle. Before, of course, we get to those new things here, let's look to some of the old things here. Maybe not necessarily old, as it's not the same trading card as the one that we already got released, but it does seem a very similar style. This, in a way, kind of reminds me of an app-based video game for superheroes, something you'd be playing around on your phone. Like if you were to have several of these superheroes, you could pick and form your own team. Kind of looks like the kind of style that they went with here. While no, not taking it necessarily from a still in the movie, which is one thing I really wish that these cards could have had instead. They are nicely designed character cards. Of course, featuring down below here, Blue Beetle as just regular Blue Beetle here, and Blue Beetle, of course, regular Blue Beetle there as well. The backs of the cards do also have the exact same read-up. So if you were hoping from something different from this to this, you're going to be a little disappointed. The real name, of course, Jamie Reyes, and the paragraph read, as chunky as it may be, is exactly the same from this one to this one here. Still, though, I will be putting these along with the rest of my trading cards in my trading card sheets. Moving then on to the other same Z. The figure comes included with, once again, the same black display stand with the same, yes, a DC logo branded down below. Nothing's changed in this department. Just to bring back in, not that it really matters, the one that came included with the original Blue Beetle, you can see that they're exactly the same. What is, though, different, though, is the wings that, for example, that he comes included with, not to mention some hands. The original Blue Beetle didn't come included with any other hands than, obviously, the blaster hand that would have then replaced the forearm. This time around, other than the already mentioned, or already will be showing you the closed fist, the figure also comes included with a thumbs-up hand. He also comes included with a pointing hand. He also comes included with a peace sign hand, if I can actually hold it properly. And he also comes with a gestured hand as well. I'm sure the question many of you probably will be asking right now is, to bring back in the original Blue Beetle, does then the hands work? Well, of course, being that it's the same figure, the answer is yes. You can, if you want to, for example, pop the hand off and just replace it with one of the hands that come included with the Battle Mode Blue Beetle. And if you wanted to have, for example, oh, that's the wrong hand. Let's grab the right hand. If you wanted to, though, it's simply just a case of popping out the replacement hand and popping then the new hand in that comes included. So if, for example, you wanted this Blue Beetle to come with a pointing hand, simply just rip the ones away from the one that comes included with the Battle Mode, and you can have the figure displayed that way as well. I'm going to keep this just to the side because I know I'm going to be bringing the guy back in a second. The figure also, being that he's a Battle Mode version, also comes included with his Beetle wings. I really like the look of these. First of all, it seems that they're using like a translucent clear plastic. Now, before you say, hey, wait, that's blue plastic. Well, no, it looks to be the case that they're actually using clear see-through plastic, judging by, of course, the fact my hand's waving behind it. But it does then look like they've added a paint wash, like they've washed across the surface of it, kind of a lighter blue. It does really look good, though. He has, of course, the metallic frame here that has the antenna on the top. These will attach, though, onto the back of the figure's body, and, of course, he does have, being, of course, a pair of wings, he has two wings of opposite sides. To attach them onto the figure, though, flip around to the back, and you'll see, of course, the big backpack, the Beetle backpack that he has. And this is why I said, if you look at the original one, the original would have had it simply just molded onto the torso. This one has a little bit of a lift, and you can see right on the side here, there's these two little circular pieces. Well, of course, what you will want to do, it takes a little bit of prying, literally and figuratively, but you will want to just pry the backpack right off the back. Put the figure down here for 1 second, hoping that he's going to stand properly. And of course, we're going to be taking ourselves the wings. And if you look on the back of it, these little spools of plastic, what you'll do, of course, you want to make sure that they are facing the right way. Take the wings, and with these little ringlets here, you're going to fit them over top of the plastic, just like that. Push them far enough back there as well, and do the exact same thing on the other side. Just fit those in place. And then once those are in place, you're going to take this larger peg and this little notch of plastic here, and then you're going to fit it on back onto the figure's body. Now, you probably could push this further in than what I'm doing right now. I like to have it just enough that it's sitting on the back of the figure's body, but then if I wanted to, it's easy to remove it again. Because like I said, the first time I did take this guy out of this packaging, it was a real hard time for me to actually try to take this part off. I had to take a little screwdriver and just pry the bottom of it till finally it gave way. As a side note, though, doesn't it look like it has a little face with a little mouse smiling down below here? Okay. The wings, by the way, though, being the way that they attach, do have a little bit of posability. You can move them up and down, but not by much, though. You can see that it doesn't really have a whole lot of clearance to work with. But it does look good, though, and it does differentiate, of course, make them a lot different than the other Blue Beetle, because if not for that, it's essentially the exact same figure. One right down to a detail that this figure also has, if I can just get the... I'm going to take this off for right now. The figure has also the exact same forearm piece. Remember that other figure that we had a look at, the Blue Beetle, and I couldn't figure out where that arm blaster was supposed to go? Well, you can, in fact, use then this blaster and use it then on this figure here. Some would then be probably asking, well, if that's the case, and it's essentially the same figure with just a now upgrade to his backpack, would you just want to get the one figure instead? You could, but then think of it this way. If you didn't already have this Blue Beetle, you wouldn't already have then this blaster. You wouldn't have all the accessories that went along with that version of Blue Beetle. So you really wouldn't be able to use those accessories anyways. You'll still want to get both. So again, let's go ahead and just pop the forearm back in place. I guess if I wanted to, I'll show you guys. Let's just pop the cannon arm off the other Blue Beetle, and we'll just pop it back onto this figure. Just to show you guys that it is the exact same figure, other than just a retooled backpack. So if you really wanted to, you could use the blaster then for the other one, and just simply attach it onto this one, then use, of course, the backpack and plug everything in place, and then you have a really battle-armored Blue Beetle. I like that. What I'll do, though, for right now at least, so let's put the forearm back in place. And maybe what I'll also do as well is I'll just take the backpack off for right now. One last time just to show you guys the stellar sculpt and work that the team at McFarlane has really done to sculpting this figure. It does look really quite good. Let's just take this off for right now. The only thing about the figure, though, is kind of a point I mentioned earlier when we had a look at this one. Minus, of course, let's just get his blaster back in place. The use of the blue looks great. No complaints, no faults there. The thing, though, about it, though, is when you're looking at the rest of the figure's body, one of the things I did mention about this one is with the additional silver wash that they've added to the plastic and already being a lighter gray to start off with, it doesn't really give, overlooking, of course, the missing backpack, it doesn't really give the chance for the blue, I feel, to shine. If the black was only darker black and not the silver that we get here, I feel like the blue would have a much better opportunity to really showcase itself. That aside, though, both the head sculpts are exactly the same. The bodies look and appear to be the same, as well as can be the same applied for all like the limbs, like the forearms, the biceps, the lower legs, and lower feet, all seem to be the exact same shared between the two figures, other than, again, the change of the backpack that this one now has. For the articulation on battle mode Blue Beetle, again, we'll look quickly at his head sculpt, I suppose, before we actually do that. There's a little fiber. Let's just remove that. Paint fur, I guess, before we actually get down to the posability on the figure, is stellar. The blue looks quite good on this one. There's really no bleed that I'm seeing anywhere on the figure's body. Even like the yellow of his eyes with the interior white pupils are all handled extremely well. As well, it can also be said for the blue that they've applied to the plastic. The blue, for as smaller some of the areas, like, for example, the legs that wrap around, are all well handled by McFarlane's team. Like I said, for the posability on the figure, it's going to be exactly the same as the one before. The head is going to rotate, of course, all the way around on a ball joint. Head looks up quite high, so while the figure doesn't come included with, say, a flight stand, if you had one such available, I probably have like 3 or 4 of them still kicking around, I probably will end up using a flight stand and display Blue Beetle with the wings in a flight pose, with at least the head being able to look high enough up, so it looks like you can actually see what's in front of him. Head does look down also as well, that far. You can also rock the head back and forth as well. Upper torso is on a ball joint, and a one touch I already mentioned with the other Blue Beetle is I like that the little legs here, this leg, the ones on the top are attached to the torso. The ones, though, to the bottom are separate, and it carries over nicely to then the lower abdomen area where it kind of, in a way, hides the articulation point. Smart on their part. Upper torso is on a ball joint. Lower torso is also on a ball joint. And like the lower trunks, if you will, are also softer plastic. So it hides not only the joint, but I keep always doing these in this review, that like the trunks fit fairly nicely to the rest of the legs and the torso. Somewhat seamless. There's still obviously a little gap on the top there, but somewhat of a seamless look of shape. So it doesn't look like the figure's got a, quote, figure diaper. Legs go forward on the figure. The legs go obviously back. You can't split the legs. They're on ratcheted joints. Swivel at the top of the thigh. There's a double hinge on the knee. And of course, all the still articulation points here for the ankle. They move not only up and down this way, rocking back and forth this way, but the figure also has toe articulation. Still the same ongoing problem I have. You can see like there's a little, if you look at the feet, first of all, they sort of sink inward. See that? And they're not completely flat. And then, of course, you also add these little extra lips on either side of it, whether that's screen accurate or not, does cause a little more problems when it comes to Blue Beetles standing. So, of course, make use of that display stand. Going back, though, to the shoulders, because I know normally we look at the shoulders and we look at then the torso. Going, though, back to the shoulders, once again, these shoulder pads are a softer plastic. Where they've attached them is right here, which is good, until you start to move the arm up. And you'll sort of see the way that they sort of accordion themselves and sort of start to fold themselves inward. And that's probably going to be damaging that plastic. So you can only really, because of that, bring the arms out at about 45 degrees. You can take the arms as well and rotate them all the way around. There's a bicep swivel. There's, of course, the double hinge on the elbow. And the hands rotate also all the way around. It's all in all, like, it's a good looking figure. There's really hasn't been changes much made for this figure that wasn't already there on the original Blue Beetle, other than just, again, like the backpack. But again, like the sell of this is the fact that not only are you getting the backpack, but then as well, if you happen to have yourself both Blue Beetles, you can kind of mix and match the component pieces. Nothing is necessarily saying that you have to keep all the accessories that, say, came included with the original Blue Beetle. You have to keep them on the figure. No way, no how. No, absolutely not. If you wanted to, you could mix and match and rotate the parts around. Like, for example, if you wanted to have the cannon arm, say, on this figure, you could do that because, of course, it's using the same component pieces. And you then could use the gestured hands that were included with this figure. You could use the ones that came included with the battle mode. At the end of the day, while it's still being the same figure, they've done enough changes to, I think, justify picking up more than just the one. Sure, I think it would have been nice if the figure had included a flight stand, but with considering all the other accessories that Jamie Reyes does come included with anyways, the wings, the additional hands, for example, while he may not necessarily have some weapons to wield like the original Blue Beetle, I think there's still enough that gets packaged along with him that you can see that the plastic went somewhere. It's not a case where you're just getting a figure with only just a couple of interchangeable hands and just a flat black display stand. No, you can see like the plastic, the resources went enough places that can be at least justified as to why the figure didn't come included with a flight stand. For me, of course, when it comes to displaying the figure, I'm going to probably put him on the shelf very similar to the way I've got him right now, looking as if he's about to leap off and fly into the sky. Yes, while he is still essentially using the same body as the other Blue Beetle we looked at before, I really did like the mold anyways. And maybe just the silver is the one thing that's a bit of a detractor for me, that I wish like the colors for the silver were a little bit more darker. But other than that, I really like the way that this one did turn out. And for me, of course, if the figure is going to be having the wings and all, I will want to display the figure with wings and all. The wings aren't as posable necessarily, but at least that they are removable. So if you didn't always want to have the wings, for example, on attached onto the back of the figure's body, simply just detach the backpack, remove the wings, and replace the backpack where you found it. All in all, just a nice looking figure if you're a big fan of the new Blue Beetle movie, whether you've seen the movie yet or not. Yeah, this is definitely one worth picking up, and still I think worth picking up even if you already have the other Blue Beetle in your collection. Big thank you once again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Blue Beetle battle mode that we had the chance to have a look at in this review. If you have also as well seen the Blue Beetle movie, let me know down below. Spoiler free, of course, please and thank you. But let me know at least down below in the comment section whether you like the movie or not. Also as well, if you guys enjoyed, speaking of liking things, if you guys also enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you are on board to see more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're also turning on the bell notification. Sorry, what? No, go ahead. You got your hand up. Oh, okay. You want to see more? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Popping up also at the very end of this video, person at the back of the audience was a little shy, holding up his hand, very small hands, by the way. Not that I didn't want to draw attention to the fact that he had tiny little hands, but yeah, answering to the question of the person at the back of the audience, there is also popping up at the very end of this video a playlist. Yeah, if you want to check out more that I've done for McFarlane toys in the past, the present, and in the future, you'll find them all in that playlist. Feel free to give that a gander. Of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.